Hey, what's up guys? This is Jeff Godbold. I'm here with John Michels of Black Pearl Reptiles. What are we looking at right here?
This is a Mexican beaded lizard, and it's one of the few venomous lizards that we have in the world. These are relatives of the Gila monsters. And so these are from Mexico, and as you can see, despite being venomous, that they can be pretty docile and pretty cool. Their venom is more in their saliva, and when you get if you were to get bitten by them, they'll clamp down on you and the teeth will kind of lacerate you, and then the saliva gets in. And it's not really considered to be something that would be potentially fatal or that kind of thing. I've never been bitten myself, fortunately. I try to be careful. But from what I understand, from the way it's been described to me, this is very painful.
Yeah, I've heard it will totally ruin your day.
It'll totally ruin your day. But that being said, they're very mellow if you want to touch them. So they're cool, and they just hang out. You know, they're not super skittish or anything like that.
Now, are these guys? Is this a full-grown adult?
This is a full-grown adult, and this is a male here.
Do the males get larger than the females?
They're a little bit. They're more or less the same size.
So what's the difference between these guys and the Gilas?
Well, there's some coloration differences. The Gilas don't get quite as large. The Gilas are also native to Arizona.
Okay. And these guys are native to California.
And these are native to Mexico.
Oh,
these
New
don't
Mexico.
come into the United States at all.
Oh, gotcha. Is the delivery system on these guys for the venom, is it pretty, I mean, obviously they're like with snakes, you have some with a delivery system that's very efficient, but then you have rear-fanged animals that, you know, the delivery system is not as good.
The delivery system is different in that they don't inject through fangs.
Right.
And so, you know, their jaw strength is incredible, and their teeth are very sharp. And so what they'll do is they'll bite, and they'll use these big old jowls here on top of the head, and they just clamp down, and they don't really want to let go. And so they'll clamp down on you and chew, and the sharp teeth will lacerate you, and then the saliva will get in there, and that's what's going to mess your day up.
And I would imagine that whenever these bite someone or something, your instinct is to pull away, which that's where the teeth come in and just totally shred you.
Well, their teeth are pretty sharp. They're going to lacerate you either way.
Right on.
So, but that being said, you can see, I mean, it's
yeah, I mean,
they're if you give the animal respect and you know how to work with it, they're pretty neat.
Yeah, I didn't know anything about these. The only thing I knew was probably a misconception that they're all pretty ill-tempered.
Right. So I wouldn't do this with a rattlesnake. You know.
Right.
I wouldn't be picking skin off of a rattlesnake's head.
We filmed a release of rattlesnakes last week, so yeah, I'm well aware of those. But I think it's important for people to know that even though, you know, that being said about the venom and whatnot, you still have to give the animal respect, and you still want to treat it with caution. You know, don't get complacent.
That's right. And so I mean, it's a venomous animal, and whether it's venomous or not, you know, if you're going to own a reptile, it's kind of your responsibility as a reptile owner to know how to treat the animal and how to deal with the animal and how to care for it properly and all of that. So, you know,
do your homework.
You don't just keep an animal as a casual thing.
Right.
And so beaded lizards have, you know, a set of requirements that are different than other animals and so forth. But that being said, they're very hardy as pets. They don't eat super frequently.
They live in a harsh environment, no?
Mellow. They don't have a lot of specific care requirements as far as space or humidity or anything like that. They're pretty easy to keep. So they're very hardy.
That probably comes from the climate and the habitat that they live in. You
sure,
know,
they're just, you know,
it's unforgiving.
I mean, if you look at them, they're just sort of, you know, you think about remnants of dinosaurs. These are the last living dinosaurs.
That's exactly what I was looking at.
They're just big beasts.
Awesome.
They're neat animals.
Cool. Let's pull out one of the snakes real quick.
Sounds good. Let's move the snakes.
All right. So we're sitting here with a Drymarchon species. John, tell us what we're looking at.
So one of the things that we kind of specialize in Black Pearl is dealing with the Drymarchon genus of snakes, which are indigos and crebos. So here we have, this is a 1-year-old Texas indigo snake. And as the name suggests, they're native to Texas, but their range goes all the way down the east coast of Mexico as well. And this is a 1-year-old female, so they will get quite a bit larger, and they will get to be, you know, anywhere between 6 and 8 feet long as an adult, and they can be pretty hefty along with that. So they're neat snakes. Most people are more familiar with the eastern indigo snake, which is an endangered species from the southeast part of the United States. And the Texans are not endangered, but they are protected in the state of Texas because that's the only place. So the southern tip of Texas is the only place where you can find them in the United States.
So if you're going to sell these, you obviously need permitting if you're selling them to Texas, right?
People in Texas need to have a permit issued from the state in order to own a Texas Indigo because they're native to Texas.
Gotcha.
They don't want people going out and collecting them and keeping them as pets. But that being said, outside of the state of Texas, the commerce of Texas Indigos is completely unregulated. So you can buy, sell them, and do whatever you want with a Texas Indigo snake.
Awesome. So just for folks that maybe they're on the fence like myself with Drymarchon. So what do you expect? Just a general, basic care requirements for these guys.
Well, we'll start off with sort of the
white elephant.
Well, the white elephant, and it can be white sometimes, but the negative aspect that people hear about with indigo snakes is their defecation,
right?
Poop, and so they have very fast metabolisms, so they eat a lot and they poop a lot, and not to get too graphic for you guys at home, but the consistency and the odor can be a little worse than other snakes and what people are used to. So that can be kind of a deterrent for people.
Right.
But there are some things that you can do to sort of mitigate that odor and that kind of stuff. But they do tend to be messier snakes than others. But that being said, the positive parts of it is that people call them intelligent, which is kind of a tough word to use because they're not exactly doing math problems, but the way they interact with people, the alertness that they have when they're watching around, it's kind of a different level of snake. It's kind of hard to explain until you actually own one, but they have a level of intelligence and interaction that you don't really see with other snakes, a level of alertness. And so it's a different kind of snake to own. They're pretty neat. The other positive parts of it is you can see that they're generally fairly docile. They will eat pretty much anything they can fit in their mouth. And in the wild, they'll eat anything from, mice, rats, birds, fish, frogs, lizards, baby alligators, baby turtles. It doesn't matter. Other snakes. They can overpower it. Yeah. If they can fit it in their mouth, they'll eat it. And along the lines with overpowering, that's another interesting thing about them as well, is that, most snakes, when they're subduing their prey, they're either venomous or they're constrictors.
Right.
This one is neither. So indigo snakes and cribos, they don't constrict their prey and they're not venomous. They're just really strong. And so they'll use their jaws, their jaw strength, which is very intense, and their power and their muscle to just overpower whatever their prey is. So they're not suffocating it with constriction. They're not delivering venom to kill it. They just grab something and just chew it down and overpower it. So it's pretty interesting. So to watch one of these, there are a lot of clips around on YouTube and things of Texas Indigos like this one, eating western diamondback rattlesnakes and so forth. People happen across that kind of a situation in the wild. And
are they immune to the venom?
They are.
They're immune to, okay, so they're immune to the venom. So I guess, what I'm getting from all this is someone that's wanting to work with Drymarchon or they're wanting to work with, any of those species, whether it be indigos or cribos, varied diet is important. You need to know that going into it. You need to know that, hey, they're just going to be a little higher maintenance. You just take it with a grain of salt. You're going to be cleaning the cage a little bit more than you would a python. From what I hear, now they're diurnal or?
Yes, they're diurnal.
So they're going to be alert during the day.
They'll be alert during the day. And,
fun to watch.
Right. Fun to watch, fun to handle, as you can see. They're really neat snakes to own.
Awesome. These guys are pretty cool. Now, is this just a standard color form of this animal?
This is a typical looking Texas Indigo snake. And
okay.
So, the Texas Indigo snakes will be black snakes, but you'll see they sort of have this brownish modeling inside of the black. And that's very typical of a Texas Indigo. They can have some that it can be kind of yellowish or orangish under the throat like that. But one of the primary differences between a Texas Indigo and an Eastern Indigo is the dorsal part, that you'll get sort of a coppery brown mixed in with the black. And there's variability between individuals, but I would call this a very standard looking Texas Indigo.
I did not think this animal was going to be this still. I mean, I'm actually, so that's one of the misconceptions people think is they think, I don't want to work with them because they're going to come out of the cage lunging at me every time. And
well, you know, it's first off, I mean, when you compare all the different Drymarchon species, Texas Indigos probably do on average, and obviously there's variability between individuals, but probably on average can be the most prone to be defensive.
oh, okay, I didn't know that.
This one's very calm, but that being said, you know, it varies by individual. But generally speaking, the Drymarchon genus are fairly calm snakes. They're not necessarily ones that are going to be attacking defensively. Attack is the wrong word, but
Reacting,
nipping, biting
right.
out of defense or out of
right.
fear. But what they will do is they can get pretty aggressive with their food.
Yeah.
And so, and because they're not constrictors, you know, most snakes, when they're going to bite a mouse or something like that, they'll lunge out, they'll grab it, and they'll pull it in so they can coil around it, right?
Yeah.
Now, because these are not constrictors, they literally use blunt force to subdue their prey. And so when these guys are going to go after a prey item, they don't reach out, grab it, and pull it in. They plow through it. I mean, it's like a Mike Tyson right hook. I mean, they literally will hit it and fly across. They don't strike, they lunge.
That's
and
awesome.
So, and with that feeding response, so I need to be careful when I'm working with my animals in their cages and so forth, that when I open up a cage and they think they're going to get fed, they will lunge out at me like that. And it's not a strike, it's they'll power all the way through. And there are times when it's very aggressive in the summertime and it's a little warmer in the room, that they'll come out of their cage, land on the ground, and chase me with their mouth open.
But that's just instinctual. They're not necessarily trying to attack you.
It's an instinctual feeding response. They're not interested in me at all. They just think that I have food. And so as soon as I can get a rat into its mouth or a chick or whatever it is that I'm feeding that day, I'll pick it up and put it right back in its cage. And then later when it's not feeding time, I'll take the animal out and I'll hold it like this. And it's it's a very calm animal.
Yeah.
It's just when it's feeding time, they get hangry.
Yeah, you know, and that's kind of an interesting point because, you know, I used to work with a lot of carpet pythons and I you know, calm snakes. I had one of my calmest animals and the worst bites I've ever gotten. I was going in with tongs to feed it, missed the tongs, hit my hand swelled up all black and blue.
Sure.
And, you know, that animal was completely placid 98% of the time, and that one time out of feeding response.
When it's feeding time, it's a different scenario.
Yeah, and
it's true for these.
And I opened the cage at night and I said, you know what? Something doesn't feel right about this. I feel like I'm probably gonna get tagged tonight. Famous last words, and boom, I got hit hard.
There it is.
So
with that, care is always required. You know, they're not venomous, but they've got sharp teeth and strong jaws, and so I take great care not to get bitten. No matter how placid my animals are, particularly my adults, I'll use a cage hook to pull them out of the cage.
Smart, yeah.
And then again, back to that sort of intelligence thing, it doesn't matter what the snake is. As soon as I get it in my hands, the feeding response shuts off. And I wouldn't say that's true of any other snakes. I mean,
right.
I've had king snakes, rosy boas even, are fairly gentle, and snakes where if they feel flesh, they're going to bite it.
Right.
You know, and that's a feeding response. But these guys know better.
Yeah,
they just know better. As soon as they know they're being held by a human, and as soon as they are being handled, they know they're not going to get fed, and that feeding response turns off.
So that's one of the things I was going to talk to you about when you're talking about feeding responses, then being able to differentiate between the keeper and the prey, and being able to associate, hey, you know, and I've heard of people doing like, you know, tong tricks to kind of, you know, rubbing them down, letting them know, hey, this is not a feeding response, you know, to entice them to come out, knowing they're not going to get fed. But, you know, well,
they're smart. They figure it out very quickly. I don't rub or anything like that. I just go in with a cage hook, pull a coil into my hand, and as soon as that snake hits my hands, they know it's over and it's fine, and they're not going to try to be feeding.
So I have more experience with pythons and boas, obviously, and you know, they can kind of sense when you're nervous. They can tell when you're like, you know, I don't know if I want to do this, I would imagine that these guys are the same way. If you're insecure about it, they will capitalize on that opportunity.
Right. Yeah, and that's a lot of snakes just in general.
Right.
If you have experience holding them and you know how to support the body, etc., and how to not, you know, have a lot of stimulation around the face and all of that, you know, they calm down very quickly.
Awesome. Well, hey, this has been a real treat. If people want to get a hold of you,
my website is blackpearlreptiles.com. It's the best way to get a hold of me. You can also find me on Facebook or Instagram.
Okay.
Under Black Pearl Reptiles, but that's the place to go. Appreciate it.
Love it, man. It's awesome. It's been a real treat.
All right, excellent. Thank you.
Check them out, guys.
Have a good one.
They are, now I know where they get the name beaded lizard. Their skin is totally like keeled.
It's a little genetic variation in the pigment of the skin.
So you're getting kind of squirmy. Thank you, by the way.
Yeah, no worries.
This was a new one for me, man. I didn't plan on this, and I have never touched those before. So, guys, I'm here with John Michels of Black Pearl Reptiles. Just making sure I got the right. Yeah, let me redo that. I mean, aren't they venomous or?
Only let them bite you. I'm not gonna let them bite me.